Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to 2 Minute Warning, the high-paced American football podcast in which the time is in short supply, but the opinions are not. Neither, apparently, are the random chatbots trying to post links in my chat. Already had my Streamlabs bot just kibosh one of them, run an all-out blitz and sack that guy. So, tech's doing it works. That wasn't words, but tech is doing its work. That's what I'm trying to say. It's going to be one of those days, I think. My name is Jez. I'm joined, as always, by my co-host, Matt. How are you doing this evening?
Well, just before we came on live, I was pretty much dying of coughing, but yeah, dosed up on some meds, and I'm all right now. How are you?
Meds are the way. Yeah, I'm all right, actually. I've managed to stave off whatever ailments my daughter brought into the house, and we are COVID-free, fully tested and COVID-free, so that's cool. Yeah. Despite the fact that I live in the area in which the new strain of the coronavirus has been discovered, which is great, obviously. You know, that's what you want.
Absolutely.
You want to be in the epicenter of a mutated strain of a pandemic that's shut down an entire year. That's what you want.
Yeah.
Duff Valley is with us. Yo. Either that. He's either with us or he's just telling us what he's just about to pop out to the shop and buy. We'll go with he's here with us, waiting for us to discuss, but we're not going to, the trials and tribulations of his favorite team, the New York Giants. It's probably best we don't do that this week. And we're not, because that game is not interesting. But games that were somewhat interesting. Shall we crack on?
I think we should. And as we were saying just before we came on air, it's our final show of 2020, which has been a year to forget for me as a Patriots fan. And in a rematch of Super Bowl 53, my New England Patriots failed to continue the momentum that they built up last week and fell to Los Angeles Rams. And yeah, everybody knows it was 24 points to 3. It was god awful. Should we put 2 minutes on the clock and you can just berate me for 2 minutes?
Yeah, that sounds like fun. Let's do that.
Okay.
I mean, berate is probably unfair, being that you kind of knew this was coming. There was no way that the success that you had the previous week was going to last, especially not with Cam Newton still at QB. But I mean, if I'm Bill Belichick, I'm the most pissed off I have been in my entire coaching career, because I'm not a Patriots fan by any means, but I was sat there in the second half after they pulled out Cam Newton and put in Josh Stidham, and I'm like, these receivers, man, they are just not making any effort whatsoever. They were doing absolutely nothing. Like, Stidham's there. He actually manages to get a few extra seconds in the pocket compared to what you'd expect. But there's nowhere for him to go. And the receivers are just durdling around. They're not doing anything at all. And it's like, that's not the Patriot way. Belichick's going to tear them a new one. It was atrocious. I do see Stidham starting next week, though. I don't know about how you feel about that.
Fingers crossed. I mean, why do I bother? You know, it's just, it was crazy. I mean, you know, with something to actually build on, and we had that momentum. I mean, we didn't have to leave the state of California this week, just gone. It was, you know, in my opinion, and it's a strong opinion as a Patriots fan, it's just the ineptitude on display from the offensive line. The D wasn't much better. They were always giving up big plays, not making big stops. Cam Newton, just like you said, needs to be benched. Jarrett Stidham needs that time and get some snaps in training as well as in the game. He needs to be put out there for the full game, because unless we're going to sign some big name, then Miracle. He's starting next season for sure, unless good draft.
I mean, I know a certain Mitchell Trubisky that is probably going to be available, you know. It's not bad. It's not good, but it's not bad. Research has joined us. Good eve, gents. Good eve indeed. And Duff Valley, in between laughing his ass off, has said, "Welcome to my world. Won't you come on in?" I actually think that there are some aspects of the Giants that have been better than the Patriots this year.
Yeah.
Many aspects, in fact.
Mm-hmm.
Quarterback, not so much. I don't
no.
think that's really working. But defense.
Yeah.
But that's a topic for another time, and not one that we are going for here. And it pains me to say, obviously, as a Bears fan, but with their 31-24 victory over the Detroit Lions, the Green Bay Packers are tied with the New Orleans Saints as the top seed in the NFC for the NFL playoffs. It was a good game, actually, but it changed dramatically when Matt Stafford was forced to leave the game in the fourth quarter with a rib injury. Let's have 2 minutes and discuss this one.
I didn't know what to expect from this game. I mean, it could have gone either way. It almost did go the other way. I guess looking at the stats of that game, with the exception to the 7-0 third quarter in favour of Green Bay. Offensive line in general for them is pretty good. I think they're going to do well. And I think that'll probably pain you as a Bears fan to see them do well postseason. Matt Stafford, I mean, the factor of his injury, they've got to bench him now to protect him, and I'm sure they will. Looking at some of the Lions websites and forums out there, he's had a good season. Not the best, you know. 2,876 yards passing in total, 18 touchdowns to 8 interceptions. Definitely not the heights of 2017 or indeed 2015, but hey, age gets to all of us. Yeah.
Unfortunately so, yeah. And I'm not sure about your assessment that the Packers will do particularly well in this playoff run that they're obviously going to go on. Because with respect to Chase Daniel, had Matt Stafford not been injured, I think the outcome of this game potentially could have been different. The Green Bay defense were just not doing a very good job at stopping the Lions from scoring with Stafford under center. And it was just becoming a shootout, as you say, apart from the third quarter where nobody really scored, apart from that one brief Packer flurry. How good are the Packers receivers, though? You know, they are. I can't argue with that. The Packers receivers are fantastic. I think they deserve a lot more of the credit than Aaron Rodgers has been getting, to be honest.
Yeah, and that's why I didn't really mention Rodgers. It's just, he's there.
Overrated.
Yeah, especially now.
Said it before. I'll say it again. Take away his receivers. Put him under center in, say, Houston. Let's see how he does.
Yeah.
Guarantee it's not the same.
No, absolutely. You know, we mentioned just now that the Packers were tied with the Saints for the top of the playoff picture. But that came about as a result of a shocking, and it was shocking when I saw the result, 24-21 loss to the Philadelphia Eagles, and that's obviously for the Saints. Let's discuss it, Jeremy. 2 minutes on the clock.
Yeah, I mean, I thought the Eagles were the worst team in the NFL coming into this week. That worse than the Jets, worse than the Jaguars. Like, they were just not getting it done at all. Carson Wentz mostly was not getting it done. But enter Jalen Hurts, and it seems to be a different story. It's been a breath of fresh air for that team. He's come in and been able to do things that Wentz just simply hasn't been able to do. It's been long observed, especially on this podcast, that the offensive line are pretty much doing their job in Philadelphia. And Wentz is not getting rid of the ball when he needs to, not finding the receivers. In Jalen Hurts' case, he can just take off and run. The thing is here that the Eagles are on the hook for $35 million on their cap space next year, which is 75%. Oh, sorry, 75%. I'm just making up numbers now. 17% of their total cap space for a guy that maybe they don't play. And if they cut him, it's even worse. They end up taking a hit of like 50 to 60 million on their cap, and they just can't afford to do that. So the only real hope that the Eagles have got is that they can trade Wentz away. And I'm going to call my timeout when the time comes, because I think this is an interesting topic.
Yeah.
There's a really small chance, when you think about who might possibly be interested in taking Carson Wentz, it's a small chance, in my opinion, that the Indianapolis Colts will be interested, because their head coach, Frank Reich, timeout. I'm pressing the wrong button. Let's try that again. Their head coach, Frank Reich, was the offensive coordinator in Philadelphia. And according to observers, they had a brilliant relationship, Wentz and Reich. And so now that he is in charge of the team and has some influence in Indianapolis, perhaps he might want a reunion to bring Carson Wentz over. And when you look at who's there at the moment in captain sidearm Phillip Rivers, they paid $25 million for 1 year with him.
Yeah.
He's only signed for this 1 year. Maybe next year he wants more money. Maybe he wants to retire. It's pretty uncertain. So if that is an opening, who's to say that they don't make a play for some kind of mega deal to help the Eagles get rid of Wentz and get something massive in return. That's my 2 cents. Anyway, what did you think of this game?
Yeah, well, for me, it was the shock result of the weekend. You know, I get the Saints didn't have, they lost Drew Brees a couple of weeks back. I honestly thought the Seahawks, the Saints, would have had the Eagles dead to rights. But nope, you said it. Jalen Hurts was the difference for them, and I couldn't agree more with your assessment there of what he put together and pulled out that shock victory. You know, the Saints didn't do all that wrong. Decision making, a QB that isn't as good as Jalen Hurts may be, but they'd already secured postseason football. So all it does is really alter the seeding, albeit maybe temporarily. But will they miss out on that first round bye week? We'll have to wait and see.
I'm wondering at what stage we get Drew Brees back, because he's not ready yet.
No.
And I don't think things are getting any better for the Saints under Taysom Hill. Maybe it's time to turn to Jameis Winston.
Maybe. Yeah.
If you want a chance of holding on to any kind of top spot, maybe you've got to try it. I think you've learned now that Taysom Hill is not the answer.
No.
Anyway, moving on and remembering that you too have a timeout, should you wish to use it. Speaking of top seeds, the Kansas City Chiefs are the top seed in the AFC after holding on to a 33-27 victory against the Miami Dolphins, a very game Miami Dolphins team. Mm-hmm. And after watching the Pittsburgh Steelers fall 26-15 on Sunday Night Football against the Buffalo Bills. Here come 2 minutes. Let's discuss both of those games for the people at the top of the AFC.
So I watched the Kansas and Miami game. I watched it live.
It was on Sky, wasn't it?
It was on Sky. It was the early kickoff yesterday, late afternoon, early evening, and it was actually really shocking to see Kansas City get buried by the Finns D, and it was early on. Loads of pressure coming down straight down off the defense. Lots of pressure, lots of blitzing. Mahomes, who he really looked lost in Hard Rock, considering I think was the Homer Super Bowl.
Yeah, that's where he won the Super Bowl.
Where he won it. On the flip side, Tua, he looked solid again. 316 yards. His early career is looking like one that could become one with rings in the future. That's my prediction. To the other game, I've read so much today. Are the Steelers the worst 11-2 team? They've got back-to-back losses now, and they went okay against a stronger Bills team, and they can turn up on any given Sunday and absolutely turn on the accelerators and win games. I think the Bills are now going to be serious contenders, and maybe, just maybe, and I will call my timeout on this one, when we get there, I think they could go all the way. I'm not saying they'll win it, but they could go all the way to 55. So, yeah, there's my timeout. Bold prediction. But what did you think?
Let's go to the Chiefs game first. And
yeah.
I don't fully agree with you when you say that Mahomes looked a bit kind of lost in Hard Rock. People were hitting the panic button really early. I was watching the Bears game at the time, obviously. But whenever they were cutting back to the fact that Mahomes had thrown 2 interceptions in the first quarter, I went back and watched it all today. And those first 2 interceptions were not Patrick Mahomes' fault. They were tip balls. They were balls off receivers that just didn't do their job properly, basically. And the same was true of Tua's interception. That was completely his receiver's fault. So no panic from me on the Mahomes front. But you're right when you say that the Dolphins defense looks scary. They didn't fully contain the Chiefs offense. I don't think anybody really has that answer this year. But I think it could have been a very different game if it wasn't for the way that the Dolphins defense played aggressively. They held almost 0 running game from the Chiefs. So kudos there. On to the Steelers, who did lose to the Washington football team last week. Not as we predicted, but as we hoped. And they just seem to be, nosediving at this point. Roethlisberger just seems to be making such bizarre choices in where he is trying to put the ball. And when he is passing the ball, it just floats for so long. There is no zip at all to his passing. And the Bills defense were doing what they do. They were in their element. Josh Allen was doing what he has done all year. But where the Bills? I've said it so many times this year. They are my pick in the AFC. I think this is going to be a unique Super Bowl if my 2 picks can get through the playoffs. But we'll get to that a little bit on the Christmas extravaganza this Friday night.
Yes.
Do a bit of playoff predicting.
Yeah. It's certainly going to be interesting. But another game that I guess has been shocking to see, considering their recent form, was the Las Vegas Raiders and their continuing slide last night against the Indianapolis Colts. And they were defeated 44 points to 27. In response to that loss, the Raiders fired their defensive coordinator, Paul Gunter. What do we think of it all with the Raiders 2 minutes on the clock?
Yeah, the Raiders had allowed 35 or more points in all of their losses this season. And this Sunday, it was the third time that they'd given up more than 40 points. So, yeah, that's not good enough from a DC point of view. You've got to get that man out of the door and let somebody else bring those fantastic players together to stop the offense a little bit more. And I think the guy who they've turned to in 71-year-old Rod Marinelli is the guy to do it. He's a proven defensive coordinator.
Yeah.
He seems to end up on the wrong end of complete regime quashes. He was in Chicago when Matt Nagy came in and just cleaned house. They got rid of everyone. He was in Dallas until Jason Garrett was got rid of last year, and then they cleaned house there again. So given the chance, I think Marinelli can do really well. And I don't think the Colts are as good as their record suggests. You look at their schedule, they've had one of the easiest schedules, and they've got 3 very easily winnable games coming up to close the season. So if they do make the playoffs, I don't see them getting very far, personally. What did you think of the Raiders?
Well, it stings for them, considering what they've done. They've pulled up some upset wins, but when you slip 44 points, you usually end up, and it's been proven, you take a big loss. Gunter deserved the sack, and I think they'll be in safer hands now. Like you said, the Colts aren't as good as their form suggests. I can't defend them. Easy games that they win, winning games they shouldn't, but do on the off chance. Yeah, Colts fans, if you're out there, prove me wrong.
Yeah, I don't actually know any Colts fans.
No.
They're not a team that
one.
I'll gravitate to, particularly.
No.
They're not
Maybe
bad.
just like
they're
horseshoes.
Just a bit plain.
Yeah. Very much so.
Speaking of plain, the plainly named Washington football team took sole possession of the NFC East, or the lead of such, with a 23-15 win over the San Francisco 49ers in Arizona. There is something to discuss here, I think. Let's have 2 minutes and go to it.
Well, first off, Arizona, that's just COVID protocol. I think they moved that, and it was decided it was going to be moved anyway. But it comes down to simple game management, simple maths. You know, when you outscore your opponents, especially either side of the half, then you've got a very good chance of sealing the W. Washington, they're looking like a team that could be a surprise outsider in the postseason if they keep the NFC East, that is. Nick Mullins and the also Rams of San Fran, they continue to let down their fans. You know, it's high hopes start of the season, but you lose pretty much all your first choice names, and this happens. 5-8 record at the moment. If they aren't, they're pretty much eliminated from the playoff picture, right?
I think they are eliminated now.
Right.
I'm not 100% sure, but I think it's a real uphill battle if they do want to get there.
Yeah.
And I think they need a new quarterback. I don't really think that they were meshing that well with Garoppolo even before he got injured. I think next year is going to be a search for another quarterback. I've heard a lot of rumor that they're interested in Trubisky to give him a chance under a decent coordinator. We shall see. But let's be quite clear here when I say that Chase Young and the Washington defense defeated the 49ers. The offense were mostly pedestrian. The running game was pretty good, one of the better running games in the league. But all Dwayne Haskins had to do in relief of Alex Smith was not throw an interception, and he just about managed to do that this week.
Yeah.
We'll keep an eye on Smith's injury and see if he has to come in and not throw interceptions next week. But
yes,
playoff bound, maybe. Not
maybe
without Alex
so.
Smith, I don't think.
No. I think, like I said, surprise package, which it's been a crazy year for them, isn't it? Renaming, rebranding. But hey, if a no-name football team can do what they've done, then good on them. Go for it.
As bad as they are, they're better than some of the other teams that are in the hunt. So
yeah, absolutely.
I've said it before. They're probably the best team in the NFC East this year.
Yeah,
it's not saying much, but it's saying something.
Yeah, it's a bit of a stinker division, isn't it? That one.
This year, yes, it is.
Yeah. So our final news story that we're going to pick on the games, and in fairness, Jeremy, you have waited patiently till the end of our little talk about the games, and your Bears actually got a win last night. It's been a few weeks, but the Chicago Bears defeated, I don't even want to say defeated, they absolutely mullered the Houston Texans 36 points to 7. Here's 2 minutes just for you.
I mean, I don't need 2 minutes because I'm not massively excited about the fact that the Bears won. Shocked, yes. I didn't even think they had it in them to beat this very poor Houston Texans team. My concern is that it gives Matt Nagy a bit of a reprieve.
Yeah.
And I want the guy out the door. There's a lot of talk about whether maybe they will just get rid of Ryan Pace this year, the general manager, for his transgressions. But I think Matt Nagy was instrumental in bringing in Nick Foles and making that decision. He certainly was the person making the decision to bench Mitchell Trubisky after starting 3-0.
Yeah.
He doesn't like using running backs at all. He thinks he can win without them. Like Montgomery did that 80-yard tear to open the game, and he only got 10 more touches of the ball after that. It beggars belief how this guy actually got a head coaching job. It's just, the Patrick Mahomes shine managed to rub off on him, and there we go. So, we won. Great. Still, fire everyone. Absolutely everyone. Get rid of them. Clean house.
Yeah.
Did you enjoy?
Well, I've watched highlights, and looked at the stats. This is usually my thing on games that I don't watch live. Trubisky, 24 out of 33 on his passing succession to attempts, 267 yards, so it's a fairly decent game. 3 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, which is always good as a quarterback. 3 receiving touchdowns for 3 different receivers, and like you said, 1 rushing touchdown. It's good night, but could you be headed to the postseason still? Just
what's the point? Why waste time?
Well, might get Nagy fired.
Rooster Beast, thanks for joining us. Said that Lovie Smith just got fired from Illinois. Former Chicago Bears head coach, who should not have been fired when he was fired, in my opinion. They fired him when the team was like 10-6 or something crazy like that.
Yeah.
So if maybe they can bring him back.
No,
then they won't do that. They shouldn't do that.
I saw a funny story, and I'm just going to pull it up now whilst we're talking about colleges and people getting fired. And it was a story that came from, and I know it's a bit ad hoc for me, but Dylan Owens, who's joined us before, he's very much into his college football, and he pulled up a story involving the Pac-12 in college football, and it's in regards to the Oregon Ducks, I do believe, and they're taking Washington's spot in the Pac-12 championship game because Washington has informed the league that they cannot play in the title game because of lingering COVID issues. So
Really?
Oregon in and Washington, who've had a good season, obviously, to get to the title game, are out. But yeah, that's breaking news in the Pac-12 out in the States.
Yeah, it's I'm not sure which way around you said it then. But yeah, it looks like it's USC and Washington in the championship game. It's replacing the Ducks. I need to read that. That's interesting.
Yeah.
I haven't really followed the college game quite as much this year, owing to time more than anything, and the fact that there was a lot more uncertainty about whether the games would actually be starting and all that kind of thing. But I am impressed that pretty much every conference has managed to get to championship games at the exact same kind of time they would normally.
Yes, yeah, I think they've worked really hard considering everything. You know, we spoke about it at extent. Sort of when we first started the season properly, and yeah, they've done pretty well in all fairness, and yeah, they get into that championship games now, which is good, and I'm glad they have, because it obviously impacts the league and maybe who goes into the draft then.
Direct carryover into the NFL draft, so there's plenty to scout in the off season, which is nice. There was concern that we'd get to the draft and nobody would know anything and we'd be watching tape from 2019, but that's not the case. So good on them. I look forward to learning more about these players in the off season, because I have not had time to do so during the season. Reese asks, what's the turnover like in management in the NFL? Is it like soccer where they get sacked all the time? Pretty much, yeah. On average, a coach and a head coach and a general manager will get about 3 years to turn a team around. And there are certain factors that will keep them around a bit longer. So if a head coach kind of isn't given the tools or the players to do his job, he'll be given a little bit longer. And they tend to get rid of a coach and a general manager at the same time and find a pairing that can work together so that they're both fully accountable for what happens. But Matt Nagy, who I'm talking about, the Bears head coach, he's in his 3rd year with the Bears, and I think his time is done. Whereas the general manager, Ryan Pace, has been there for, I want to say, 7 years, and has a proven track record of being freaking useless. So let's dispense with that guy, as I've mentioned. I guess the draft system means you can't splash 500 million like over here to fix it. No, you can't. And the salary cap especially does that as well.
And that's,
if you spent 500 million on a player, then you wouldn't have any other players on your team, I don't think, really.
No, and I think that's what obviously, Reese, you're saying about how is it the same as soccer to American football. In the case of, like, you very rarely see a general manager of a soccer team over here, or whatever you want to call it, a director of football, maybe the head of the board, doesn't usually get sacked. But the manager, like you said, in 3 years is usually the case. In a good example, Reese is probably known in soccer. It's pretty much like Jose Mourinho, kind of lasts 3 years and then he's gone. But yeah,
am I right in thinking that the kind of ownership and the head coaches of, like, Premier League teams tend to have most of the recruiting power in that sense and the signing power, or was somebody else there doing that, like in the NFL? Or
So recruiting had probably come down to the some of the bigger teams now have got director of football, which is kind of like a GM. But then you've got the whatever you want to call it, the chief executive officer. He'll have the purse strings from the owners. So a lot of the clubs over here are owned by either American owners who own stakes in either NFL or Major League Baseball. But yeah, that's where the money comes from, is over in the States. So they kind of tend to dump their debt onto UK soccer clubs because they make it back quicker.
Interestingly, the director of football role has come in to the NFL very recently, and there are some teams that can have a director of football and a general manager, and invariably they don't get on because it just means the power is split between them. But
yeah,
that's yet another story for another day. But
absolutely,
nice to take some questions and
absolutely
talk about something a little different. But let's crack on to our last 2-minute segment, which is reviewing our predictions from last week and heading into the next. So I came into week 14 leading 8-4-1, 8 wins for me, 4 for you, and 1 tie between us. And this week you coasted to an easy victory with 11 correct predictions to my 7. Pretty damn glad I didn't put any bets on this week, and I don't even know why I didn't put any bets on. It just time went and the games were on. I was like, oh, guess I'm not doing that. Never mind. Save me the money.
I think that's the biggest margin of victory I've had, isn't it? 4.
I think it is. Yeah. It might be the biggest margin of victory between us. So I'd go back and check if I wasn't a lazy man, but I am. So
no, don't go check.
We'll just say it's you. That's fine. I can live with that.
Yeah.
With that in mind, no, you can't catch me. No, I'm faster than you. With that in mind, let's crack on with week 15's predictions, and that all starts in a matter of hours on Monday Night Football. Here we go. Ravens at Browns.
Ravens.
Oh, I'm going Browns. Chargers at Raiders Thursday night.
Oh, Raiders.
Yeah, I think the Raiders come back and get a win from that. There are 2 games on Saturday night. The first being Bills at Broncos.
Bills.
I agree. Panthers at Packers.
Packers.
Afraid so, yeah, Packers. Sunday slate, Texans at Colts.
I'm going to go Colts.
Me too, yeah. Lions at Titans.
Titans for me.
I think Titans as well, because I don't think Stafford will be back. It might have been a different story otherwise. Bears at Vikings.
Oh, I think and I hope that the Bears beat the Vikings.
There's controlling your own destiny available here, and it's the Vikings spot that the Bears want if they want to go into the playoffs. So I absolutely think that the Vikings are going to win. Seahawks at Washington.
I'm going to go for Washington for the upset.
I'm going to stick with the Seahawks because without Alex Smith, the Washington team are not all that. Patriots at Dolphins.
Oh, Dolphins.
Yeah, good, correct choice. Jaguars at Ravens.
Oh, Ravens.
I agree. Bucks at Falcons.
Oh, Bucks.
Yeah, the Bucks want that division win there, I think. 49ers at Cowboys.
No, Cowboys, I think is the first time I've said it all season.
Yeah, it's going to be a trash game at Cowboys. Yeah. Eagles at Cardinals.
I'm going to go Cardinals.
Agreed. Jets at Rams.
Rams.
Agreed. Easy. Chiefs at Saints.
I'm going to go Chiefs.
Yeah, Chiefs. Without Breezes. No-brainer. And then finally, Browns at Giants on Sunday Night Football.
Browns.
Absolutely Browns, yes. Almost.
almost like 3 seconds over.
Yeah.
Something like that.
With spouses dying in the background on your end as well.
I know, all dying.
Just surprised that you haven't had a coughing fit yet, and I think you've done quite well, to be fair to you.
Do that when I'm finished.
You feel like, and we're off.
Pretty much.
Well, that closes the final 2-minute warning of 2020. It's been a year for sure.
It has.
Glad to have brought you on board with this podcast to revive it first of all, but to have somebody to talk NFL with on a weekly basis as we get through this weird and wonderful season. So thank you very much for that.
No, always a pleasure.
On Friday night, and we'll get to the schedule very shortly, but the Jez Show Network presents a Christmas extravaganza, and there'll be a little bit of time for 2-minute warning in that extravaganza. And I think we should talk who we expect to make the playoffs once everything is set, and take that through to making a Super Bowl prediction. And I'm going to try and dig out some clips and highlights from this year as well. So our little slot will go quite quickly, I think. Yes.
And I'll dig out the hat, should I?
Yeah. Even though you've tidied up your face and in the top of your head, it actually looks somewhat presentable now.
I know. Gotta try.
You have got to try every now and again. Yeah. Anything that keeps a turkey hat off your head. Yeah. Forgotten what that hat was called. Perhaps the chat can remind us.
Oh, it's called I don't know. Was it cram? I don't know. It's this one.
Yeah, that's him. Yeah. It was a very punny name developed by Tamzanaki, but I do not remember what it was.
I want to say it was cranberry.
Cranberry, that's it. Cranberry. There we go. I'm glad we got there. Otherwise, that would have bugged me all night and I wouldn't have got any sleep. But before we get to Friday and our little spot on the Christmas extravaganza, there is a lot more happening on the Jez Show Network this week. So coming up in about 45 minutes on twitch.tv/Captain Soro, he is playing a Zelda game. He did tell me, and I tried to remember it, but I don't do that remembering thing so well. Should have written it down. The Legend of Zelda Wind Waker, which I've never heard of, but apparently it's a nice, chill, laid-back kind of game for him to start the week off nicely. And then following him at midnight, Rooster Beast heads back onto Spider-Man on the PS4. Been playing that for a few weeks, making good progress on that. Tomorrow at 3 p.m, it's the Retro Roster, looking at Payback 2017 in advance of this Sunday's TLC pay-per-view, in which we'll have another match between Bray Wyatt and Randy Orton. Payback 2017 was their epic first meeting, so we're going to look back before we look forward. At 6:30 p.m, it's a American Truck Simulator special episode. It's special because he wasn't going to play it and I made him play it, so we'll be there trucking USA once again. I'm very excited. I'm very happy about that. Always be chatting. We'll be playing a yet announced video game, but I think, don't hold me to it, but I think he's going to finish his second run through of Detroit Become Human. I think he's going to close that out. And then more unannounced games from Captain Soro at 10:30. Lots more happening across the week. It's all there in front of you. It will be introduced in other streams as well. The last main week in the network before we head off for Christmas. And there we have it.
I'm sure there's a song in there somewhere.
There is.
Yeah.
Do you want to sing? Is that a particular desire of yours?
Maybe on Friday.
All right.
Little karaoke session like the good old days.
I'll hold you to that. Maybe we'll bring Alex. Always be chatting in. He likes his singing. Maybe you two can do a little duet. Maybe you can sing the "Are you ready for some football?"
I'll find it and
learn
we'll
it.
see.
On that note, then, let's get some music playing and start to close out the show. Hopefully, when I look back at this, we haven't been muted for the first 15 seconds. So hopefully I fixed that, because that's been pretty annoying the last couple of weeks.
It has.
Time will tell whether it's happened again. You already know. You've listened.
Yeah.
You, the listener, not you, Matt. I'll stop talking now.
Okay.
Until Friday night for our little extra thing on the Christmas extravaganza, I've been Jez. That's been Matt. Say Merry Christmas, Matt.
Merry Christmas, Matt.